Booktube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to do a wrap-up video. Now, I'm not sure how I'm going to be doing my wrap-up videos in 2020. However, this is for last year. I know. So I didn't read much towards the end of the year. I had these brilliant goals to read a ton of books in 2019. My first goal on Goodreads was 50. I reached that goal. I was super excited. I bumped it up to 75. And then when it came closer to the end of December, I realized there's no way I'm gonna get to that. And so I dropped it down to 68 to cheat. And then I actually read 69 books. So, yeah. I don't want to complain about the difference between how many books I read back in 2014 and how many I read 5 years later, because I wasn't busy back in 2014. My kids were small, and now I'm always busy. So, you know, life happens. So I have 4 months. Is it 4? October, November, December? October? Oh no, only 3 months worth of book reviews. I didn't finish any books in August or September, and that's why there's no wrap-ups for those. So this is all from October through December, and there's a few books here. This might take a while. If you guys are new to my channel, my reviews are usually like mini reviews. I do about 3 to 5 minutes per book. I don't give away the endings. I don't give away major plot points, but I do talk about the book in general. And I will leave timestamps down below so that way you can skip to whatever books you are interested in. I do read a lot of adult books, but because I am a mom and I do read to my children every single night, I do read a lot of kids' books as well. So that could be elementary books, middle grade, YA, all of that stuff. So I read different genres and I read different age groups. So again, you can skip all those if you wish. So let's get started. The first, what is it? The first 2 books I finished in October, and the first one being Kill the Farm Boy by Delilah S. Dawson and Kevin Hearn. Now, I picked this book up ages ago, sometime in 2018 when it first came out. I thought this was going to be a Princess Bride retelling. However, some people told me in the comments, they're like, that's not what it is. And so, you know, I looked it up and I was like, oh, bummed out. And then I read it and I was like, it doesn't even matter because it's just as good. If you like The Princess Bride, the parody of it, the way it is, sorry, I have an eyelash that has maneuvered into my eyeball. Is that better? Better? Maybe? Yes. Okay. Back to what I was saying. If you like The Princess Bride because of the fantasy aspect, the love interest aspect, and the fact that it's hilarious, then you're going to like this book. I know that there are a handful of my friends here on BookTube that also follow me on Goodreads who hands down absolutely hated this book. And again, it's not for everybody. If you are a Monty Python kind of person, you're gonna like it. If you like slapstick comedy, if you like dry or potty humor or things that have an innuendo of, you know, genitalia, you're gonna like this book. I read this to both of my children. Now, my 12, almost 13-year-old didn't get any of the innuendo. My 14, almost 15-year-old got the majority of it. There was some that he didn't understand. And I have talked about this book before, how they talk about towers a lot and bushes that surround these towers, how they need to be maintained. Yes, if you think in a have a dirty mind, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that's exactly how the book is. It's super funny, and me being completely immature found it hilarious. I absolutely loved it. So, what is this book about, you say? It's about a boy who is told he is the chosen one. And when he goes on his quest to find out what his quest is, he, you know, meets people along the way. Now, there is a goat that is his sidekick. The goat hates him. The goat didn't talk before the boy he became the chosen one. The pixie that told the boy he was the chosen one also made the goat talk, and the goat is hilarious. I absolutely love the goat. And then there are several characters that go on the journey with them. So there is a wizard or a warlock. Is it a wizard? I can't remember what he's called. Maybe. I think it's a wizard. He's a terrible one anyway. He can only like create crackers from thin air, but he can't do anything else. And then he has a rogue that works for him that is a terrible rogue. She can't even do anything, and she's afraid of chickens, which cracks me up. And then there are two other people that join their squad or group or what have you. Actually, three. There's a rabbit woman. There is a warrior. She's not a princess, but she's a warrior girl who's a giant. Oh, well, standard tall person. She's not an actual giant. And then there's like a witch that they meet towards the middle of the book. But basically, all of the characters are on a mission. And they're all on a mission for different reasons, but they're going in as a group because more people are safer than just trying to do it alone. I loved every single individual character by themselves. I loved them as a group. I loved the banter. I loved all the different places they go to. There's a map in here, and there's the map. And so it's also just as bad. So let me just give you some examples. There is the Morningwood Forest. And if you're thinking Morningwood, yes, you are correct. That is exactly what it's about. There's a place called Grunting, Chummy Sea. There is, it's just so funny, Teebring, Songlin, Neat Camp, Muffin Crumb, Gobbleneck, Cheap Meat. It's just really funny. It's really funny. It's super funny. And I don't want to give anything away. For those of you who hated this book, I do apologize that it wasn't up to your standards. But I literally gave this 4.5 stars. Like, everyone has their own type of humor. And this is absolutely my type of humor. So I purchased the second and third book in this series. And I have already started the second book. I think I'm around chapter 4. And I'm looking forward to reading more. So, I thought this was going to be a YA because our main character is, I guess, a teenager, but it's fully adult. It's an adult book because of everything that takes place in this. Also, there's a lesbian couple, and what else? I think that's it. But yeah, so there's diversity, there is humor, there is nasty business, there is a lot of puns and bad stuff, and it's like reading Mad TV, but in a fantasy. I don't know. I liked it so much. I don't know. Okay, the next book that I read, and I received this from Quark Books for, for a review. They send me books every quarter, and I picked those books out. They send me like a list of what is coming out in the next 2 seasons, and then I choose the books that I think I would be interested in reading, and then they send it to me. And this was so fun. I gave this one 4 stars. This is called How to Survive a Horror Movie by Seth Grahame-Smith. Now, Seth Grahame-Smith wrote Vampire Hunter and also Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I think Sense and Sensibility with Sea Monsters, I'm pretty sure, and some other stuff. He also has a new one coming out, I think. Maybe not. Oh, that's Grady Hendrix. I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully I get that one from Cork as well. Anyways, let's continue. So this is a pseudo nonfiction. Pseudo meaning obviously you would never find yourself in a horror movie, but this is step-by-step instructions on what to do if you find yourself in that kind of scenario, and I loved every minute of it. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars. Not only is it just, I like the way it was like put together. There's also a, is it a foreword? Oh, it's called an apology from Wes Craven, but it's just like a little thing that he writes in there. So it says, welcome to the Terrorverse. And there are different chapters, obviously. It tells you like to look around. What do you see? There's so many different kinds of people that you can meet. How do I know what type of horror movie I'm in? There's slashers, there's evil places and things, there's the undead, there's monsters, and then there's satanic horror movies. And just like what to do, how to survive. I really enjoyed reading this in October. It was the perfect October read. And I'm keeping it. I liked it so much. I'm never going to go back to reference this book, and I don't think I'll ever reread it, but it's something that I would like to hold on to, maybe flip through every once in a while, let somebody borrow it, because again, it is really funny. And my high schooler hasn't read this yet, so I do want him to read it as well. So if you like those fake kind of documentaries or fake nonfiction, you like horror books, you might really like this. I mean, literally, it's not rereadable. Once you've read it, you kind of get the gist of it, but it is fun to have. It's a good, like, table. It's not even that big, but it's like a good table book, or like say you have a guest room and you threw it in there for them to like just kind of browse through. It is really fun to read, and I had a lot of entertainment value from this book. So there's that one. And then we have A Noise Downstairs. Now this is the book that I finished in November. We're on to my November reads, and I think, yeah, I only read 3 books in November. A Noise Downstairs by Linwood Barclay. This is his most recent, I believe. This came out, was it in 2019? 18. Yikes. This came out in 2018. I was supposed to buddy read this with someone. I can't even remember her name anymore because I started reading this ages ago. I don't even know if we started it in 2019. It might have been in 2018. This was on my most anticipated reads list. Her and I read it for like a week. Like her, I'm terrible at buddy reads, and I've already talked about this with you guys before. But basically, we got to the halfway point. I started reading other books. I put this down. She finished it. I said, I'm sorry. And then I finished it this year, or 2019. So what is this book about? This is an adult thriller. It's about a man who sees his coworker driving in front of him, okay? And his coworker's kind of swerving, and so he decides to, maybe I should follow him a little bit, make sure he's okay. I wouldn't want him to get like a DUI or run off the road or hurt anybody, so I'll just follow him, make sure he's drives safely. And then the guy turns off into this, industrial area, and he gets out of the car, and so our main character's thinking, oh, maybe he's going to throw up, maybe he has to go pee, like, we'll find out what's going on. I'm just going to watch him for a second, and then I'll turn around and leave, and things should be fine. But he sees this guy throw something into the dumpster. Now, of course, he's not, like, right up on the guy's butt, so he doesn't see what was in the dumpster. He just knows that his coworker throws something in the dumpster. And he's like, all right. That's weird. The coworker gets back in the car, turns around, leaves the place, and goes in the opposite direction. And so the opposite direction is more towards the coworker's house. So again, our main character is like, all right, well, that was strange. I feel compelled to follow him more. So he continues to follow him, and then his coworker pulls off the side of the road again. So this time he goes, okay, he must have seen me following him, and he probably wants to know what's going on. So our main character pulls off as well. He goes, "Hey buddy, what's going on? How are you doing?" And as he's asking him this question, he kind of looks over at the coworker's car and notices something that he shouldn't notice. That's when, like, because he's asking, "How are you doing?" And then when he looks back at his coworker, he gets bashed in the face with, like, I can't remember if it was a tire iron or a shovel. I think it was a shovel. And then we meet our main character like 6 months later. Maybe it's a little bit longer. But basically, he gets knocked out and we have to find out what happens. The noise downstairs part, the typewriter that's on the cover all ties in to the storyline. It's like a supernatural mystery thriller. You don't know what's going on. We don't know if our main character is being is having like supernatural visitations. You don't know if he is imagining things and he has some brain damage from the assault. You don't know if there is somebody breaking into the house and causing mischief. All of this stuff could be plausible because our main character doesn't have, oh, what's that word called? He's not, you know what I'm talking about, right? Unreliable source? Is that it? I think it's unreliable. Maybe. He's an unreliable witness, narrator, yada yada. I liked it. I gave this one 4 stars. I didn't know what happens, and I was very surprised with the ending and what all went down. The wife in this book really, really annoyed me. Like, really, really annoyed me. I hate when, and I've talked about this in previous videos before, but if you are married to someone, and this might not be forever, but this is just my opinion, you're supposed to, you know, support that spouse in pretty much anything unless they're going to kill somebody. You know what I mean? Like, or try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Try to understand where they're coming from. Don't just constantly think that they're crazy and go behind their back to make sure that they get locked up or whatever. Now, the wife doesn't do that necessarily, but she does do some iffy things, and she's constantly getting mad at her husband and calling him crazy, which is so hurtful, and it sucks because he's going through something and she doesn't believe him, and it just drives me crazy because, you know, you're supposed to be able to trust your spouse wholeheartedly with anything, you know, and if he's coming to you and he's like giving you all of his, you know, feels, his emotions, his thoughts and everything, and he really wants to talk about this, and he's just like, please believe me, and you're like, you're crazy. No, I won't believe you. It's just messed up. You know, if my husband came in and said, I absolutely saw a UFO today, it almost abducted me, I would say, absolutely, I believe you. You might not have proof, but sure, I absolutely believe you. And not in a joking manner, because that's rude. Plus, I believe in UFOs, so. I guess to each their own. Some people might say, you know, I don't really care. My husband's nuts. And if something happened, I wouldn't believe him. But I don't believe that that's a good thing. I think that's mean. Anyways, now we're going on to all of the kid books that I read. So this is the last book I read in November, and that is Shadow House by Dan Poblocki. I have read this book before on my own, and then I decided to read it to the children. I started it in October, but I finished it in November. Now this is a haunted house book. You see that cover is pretty cool. It's got like this ghosty girl, and then when you open up, she's normal right here. You see that? So it's about, I think it's five kids. They all get these different kinds of letters inviting them to this particular house. One kid thinks he's going to a music school. Another one thinks she's being adopted. Another one thinks that they are going to, like, they all think they're going to some kind of school or home or a movie set or something like that. They all get there and weird things start happening in this house. They all talk about how they got here. They find out that all of their letters were lies and that they're like kind of trapped in this haunted house. And how are they going to escape? And lots of bad things are happening to them, which is really scary in a middle grade sense. I wasn't scared. My children weren't scared. And my 14-year-old thought that this book was very cliche. I gave this book, I gave it like 3.5 or 4 stars the first time I read it. And then when I reread it, I brought it down to 3 stars. He's right. This could have been written better. I found all of the children more whiny than usual. Like, it's okay to be scared as a little kid. I think these children are like between 13 and 16, maybe, around that, and they just seem super whiny. And yeah, my son didn't like the writing and he thought it was kind of bland. I do own the second book, so we will continue in the series, but once I'm done reading the series, I might just give these books away because I don't think we'll ever reread them. But yeah, that's what I read and finished in November. Next comes all of more kids books. So in December, I read a good amount of books, but let's start off with Captain Underpants. I read 5 Captain Underpants books in December. Right now, we are currently going to be starting book 8 on Monday. Yeah, let me just read you these titles. And by the way, if you've ever thought, ew, gross, Captain Underpants is stupid, the vocabulary in these books are really good. There is an AR or a Lexile score that's pretty high for these books. It's like a high 4th, almost early 5th grade level of reading. There's a lot of big vocab words in here, and it's such a fun read. So the first one is just obviously Captain Underpants. These are all by Dave Pilkey. It's about George and Harold. Now, George and Harold are both in the 4th grade, I believe, and they like to get together and make comic books. Now, this one is The Attack of the Talking Toilets. We have here Captain Underpants, aka Mr. Why did I want to say Krupp? It is Krupp, K-R-U-P-P, Krupp. Mr. Krupp hates them because they're always, being mischievous at school. They're always doing pranks. He's usually the butt end of the pranks, or the other kids in the school, or the other teachers. So they're always doing pranks that they think aren't that bad, but also do a lot of like school damage. But at the same time, they're so funny. And I don't know. I just really, really like them. So there's that one. The third book is called And the Invasion of the Incredibly Naughty Cafeteria Ladies from Outer Space and the Subsequent Assault of the Equally Evil Lunchroom Zombie Nerds. Mouthful. I really like this one as well. Super hilarious. And then we have the 4th one, which is And the Perilous Plot of Professor Poopy Pants. Now, if you've watched Captain Underpants, the movie is mostly on the 3rd book. Professor Poopy Pants. It cracks me up. It cracks me up. There is, so there's the 2 boys. There's Melvin Sneedley, who's a main character. He is a goody-goody at the school. He's the only one that's the goody-goody. And he's like a brainiac. And he's always tattling on Harold and George. And, yeah, they're always trying to get out of detention and all that. It's just hilarious. And then the 5th one is And the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman. This was the only one that I didn't like out of the 5. The first one, Captain Underpants, I gave 3 stars to, just because it's like an intro book, and I think I read that like twice. So it was like, it wasn't new to me the second time around, So it was just okay. But 2, 3, and 4, I gave 4 stars to. I really enjoyed the villains of those books. They had something to say. They were all villains because of injustice. They were all like trying to get back for someone bullying them, which I thought was funny. And George and Harold are, you know, freaking out because now these villains are trying to get revenge on the boys, and then they always have to have Captain Underpants come and help and save the day. And everything works out in the end. But this one wasn't my favorite. I just didn't find her very villainy, and her major power with the wicked wedgie power was just stupid. And I didn't like the fact that in order for Captain Underpants to be defeated in this book, you needed starch. I mean, I get it. Nobody wants to starch their underwear, but it was just kind of lame for like a kryptonite. So, to each their own. I don't know. If you have kids, though, I highly recommend you reading these to them. You'll laugh, they'll laugh, you guys will have a very good time reading. And then I read Dog Man. This is not a spin-off of Captain Underpants, but it's written by the same author, Dave Pilkey. And this one I don't like as much as the Captain Underpants series. This one is about a dog man. So there was a cop and a police dog, and they both got into an accident, and the cop's head was dying, but not his body, and the dog's body was dying, but not the head. And so the nurse said, why don't we just sew them together and they'll survive that way? And so then he became Dog Man. So he has thoughts like a dog, but he's got the body of a human, so he can like stop crime. And our main villain in all of these books is Petey the cat. And so Petey's always in jail, and Dogman is always trying to round Petey up to put him back in jail, and he keeps escaping, and there's things that happen around it. The only thing I like about this book is the drawings. I like the comic aspect of it, and the fact the way it's written, like the words are spelled. To me, it sounds like a Boston accent, and so when I'm reading these out loud to my children, I do it in a Boston accent. And let me tell you guys, again, if you're new to my channel, I'm not a professional accent person. I try my best just by sound, and I sure do flop most of the time, but I have fun, and my kids enjoy me switching up the voice. So, Dogman's okay. I gave that one 3 stars. Not my fave. The next book I read in December was Strange Planet. This is by Nathan W. Pyle. He has an Instagram account. I will leave that down below in the description box. And that's how I found out about this author or comic. What do you call people who write comics? They're still authors, right? So there's these like alien beings, and each panel is its own little like story, but it's so funny. So here, this is a good one. My 14-year-old really likes this one. So here's the child. Okay, he's sleeping, and the mom comes in, or dad, we don't know, because there's no genders. So it says, time to be fully conscious, and the kid goes, I request a small extension, and the parent says, request denied. And the kid goes, a few more time increments. The parent says, illuminating your rest chamber. A 1% rest increment. I admit that was resourceful, creating a smaller chamber. He covered his head up with the pillow. Now, why I like this so much is because the characters are endearing. All of the situations that we find the aliens in are relatable. And the fact that they use words that mean exactly what they're talking about, but we would never use. It's just goofy. Like, let me see. Let me find a good one. Right here, the next page, it says, do you want to ingest with us? Thank you. I am unknown in this region. So it's a new kid at school. They're asking if he wants to come sit down and eat with them. Nobody says, do you want to come ingest with us? But that's the act of eating, is ingesting food. So I know you guys understand. And my husband always tells me that I overly explain things, but so funny. I read this all in one sitting. Absolutely loved it. When the author, Nathan, was coming out with this book, he had a countdown on his Instagram, and so I was counting down. I pre-ordered this. I had to buy 2 of them because I kept posting the comics on my Facebook page, and my sister kept saying, oh my gosh, I love him so much, so I bought it for her for Christmas. Definitely pleasant. Again, not something I might reread often, but this is a good table book, a good book to put in a guest room. It's so cute. And of course, I like to help authors, you know what I mean? Especially if I like their work. So even though I won't reread it, I did want to buy it, purchase it, have a hard copy of it because, you know, he deserves all of the love and money for those cute aliens. I absolutely loved it. I gave that one 5 stars because it's just brilliant. Okay, the next book I read finally was 4 Past Midnight. This is a collection of 4 short stories by Stephen King. I didn't fail in 2019 on my Goodreads group. I run a Goodreads group, and it is the Stephen King read-along group. Every month we have a new book that we read. A lot of the books that were on the list were books that I've read before, and so sprinkled in were things that I haven't read, and this one was one of them, and it just took ages because it is such a long book. But the 4 stories that are in this one is The Langoliers, which is my favorite. I absolutely love The Langoliers. If you don't know what The Langoliers are, just watch the movie because the movie is as good as the story itself. Basically, it's about a whole plane of people that fly from LA and they're going to Boston. Now, when they get towards the Rocky Mountains, like towards Las Vegas, there is a Aurora Borealis, which I didn't even know existed in the States. I thought it was just up in like Alaska, like north, the Arctic Circle. Like I didn't realize, or maybe it's just for the storyline. Regardless, they fly through the Aurora Borealis, and what it actually is like a time slip. So when they fly through it, they wake up from like their sleep, and all of the passengers of the plane are missing besides like 10 people. And the 10 people that are still on the plane were asleep during the flight. Everybody else vanished because they were awake. And you know, just to make it make sense, there was a sleeping pilot on the plane. So it's not like they crashed. But I really, really, really like this story. There is like a monster aspect towards the end of it. The people have to like find out what happened and why they survived this weird thing that happened to them. So definitely enjoyed that one. And because I've read that one before and I watched the movie, it was a pleasant reread. Then we have Secret Window, Secret Garden. If you've seen Secret Window with Johnny Depp, that is the same story. It's about a writer who gets divorced from his wife. He moves to their lake house while she keeps the suburban house. And he's going through a divorce. He didn't want to get divorced. She was cheating on him. He's very depressed. And he's supposed to be writing a story. And one day, you know, a man comes to his door and basically tells him he plagiarized one of his stories. And so our main character, aka Johnny Depp, he says, "What are you talking about? I wrote that story a long time ago." And the man's like, "I don't know how you did it, but you stole my story and I want you to fix it." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I want you to write it the way I would have ended it." He's like, "No, you're crazy." And so the whole story goes on like that, where you know, our main character, aka Johnny Depp, is trying to like figure out who this man is, why he's being accused of plagiarism, and then like trying to deal with his ex-wife. I really liked it. And then we have the last two stories in here that were brand new to me, which is The Library Policeman and The Sundog. I really, really enjoyed those two stories as well. This is a 5-star read for me. A lot of the times, with all collection, like short story collections, I always have like some that just don't work for me, while I like others, or some are just kind of mediocre. I really enjoyed all of these stories. They're all, it's such a long book. They're all well-rounded. They all have a very good beginning, middle, and end. They all have really good supernatural, weird monster kinds of things. The Library Policeman is about a man who borrows a library book, and he's been told from the librarian that if he doesn't return his books on time, the library policeman will come and get him. And he's just like, what a kid thing to say. Why would you tell me that? I'm an adult. Of course there's no such thing as a library policeman. But there is. And then the last book, the last story in this book is The Sundog, which is about a haunted Polaroid camera. Fun. Loved it. Absolutely loved everything about that book. 5 stars. Okay, now the last 2 books I read in December, I read while I was on vacation in New Zealand, and they both got read on the plane. So the first one I have here is An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good by Helene Thurston. This is translated by Marlene Dillergy, and I believe this takes place in Scandinavia. Where is she from? Is it Sweden? I can't remember. Does it say? I don't think it matters, and I'm always saying that. It says Gothenburg. Takes place in Gothenburg. I don't know where that is. Okay, so basically this is 4 short stories, I believe, and it's all about Maud. She is an elderly woman. I think she's in her 80s, and she's a serial killer. That might have been a spoiler. I don't know. You find out right away that she's murdering people, and the way she murders them is pretty hilarious, and just the way that she goes about her day-to-day is super hilarious. And I've never read about an old person serial killer. It was so fun. And to have a girl serial killer is always nice to read about, because it's always boys that you read about. So we have an angsty Maud serial killer, and you know, don't get in her way, because as you get older, you start not caring about what happens to you. You just do what you got to do to get to get the day done. And I absolutely highly recommend this book. I bought it over Labor Day weekend when I went to go visit my sister in Flagstaff, and I just saw that it was tiny on the bookshelf at the bookstore, and I was just like, I need it. An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good. I need to know what this is. And it looks like stitch work. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a good impulse buy. Like, I didn't know anything about that book, and it was amazing. All right. I think I gave that one 4 stars. And then the very last book I read in December is The Girl from the Other Side. This is by Seul Arun. I don't know. This is a manga. It's not in color. It's in black and white. All mangas you have to read from right to left. And basically, I didn't really like it. I gave this one 3 stars. Oops. I gave this one 3 stars. I do have books 3 and 4 in this series as well. I do need to get number 2. It might get better. I don't know. But basically, we have this creature here, and then we have this little girl here. I can never do my fingers. Basically, it's kind of like a good and evil type of story. We have the light people that live inside of a city, and on the outside of their wall is the dark side, or the dark people. They don't call it night. It's light and dark. So the dark people. The dark people are all monsters. At one point in time, it does talk about kind of like a god and a devil type of thing, where one didn't want to follow the light anymore, and so it became its own thing. But because it was upset that it got, you know, banished from, it's basically the devil and God. The devil is banished from heaven, and so he creates a curse on humans, and the curse is spread through touch. So these monsters were touched by somebody else who had the curse, and they don't eat anymore, and I think they just kind of like roam around. I'm pretty sure they can die. They can be killed. Maybe. I don't know, because he doesn't die. It's still new to me. I probably am missing something, because it was just, you know, when you read manga, you kind of like go through the panels and you try to get the gist of the story, and there's not much in this one. It kind of like makes you figure it out, and it starts in the middle of a thing. So this little girl is left in this abandoned city. The city was evacuated because they heard that the monsters were coming, that the curse was coming, and so they evacuated. The aunt, I guess, was cursed, and so she couldn't leave, and this little girl doesn't have any other family besides her aunt. So the aunt dropped her off at a house, and the house just so happened to have this monster living in it. And so the monster is taking care of the little girl, and she keeps asking, when's my aunt coming back? And the monster's like, oh, I wish you would stop asking me that, because I want to tell you the truth, but I also don't want to hurt your feelings. And so, but he's super sweet. They're just misunderstood. And yeah, I am interested in finding out what happens. I didn't really find this story itself, this particular one, or this first one, very engaging. It was just okay. And those are all the books that I read in the last 3 months. I will have a wrap up for January. I did finish a couple of books, so I will be posting that one as well. But yeah, let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. How are you guys doing? It is the weekend. I'm hoping to get this uploaded, or, you know, edited and uploaded this weekend, so that way you have something to watch, because I'm trying to do better this year. I'm trying to do better. All right, that's it. Those were all of the books. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you soon.